What's up, folks? Hello, beautiful people. Thanks for being here. Oh, actually, hold on a second. This is too echoey. I gotta change some things. Just give me a second. All right. Hopefully that'll decrease some of the echo there, because I didn't want it to seem like I was in a basement while I'm in a basement. No, I'm not really in a basement, but give it another week, and I probably will be. Thanks for being here, folks. Thanks for taking the time to watch the most censored comedian in America. As far as I know, I've asked for people to throw in other options as to who is the most censored comedian in America, and I haven't heard any good ones that compete with me. So thanks for being here. I got several topics to talk about. We're going to talk about inequality, new proof, new documentation as to how it is killing people, how it's destroying lives. We're going to talk about new efforts to stop people from helping people in prison. We're gonna also get into a poll that I put forward to you guys about gun rights, and we'll find out where you folks stand on gun rights in America or in your own country if you're not in the U.S. of A. And I think I can speak for all of us when I say we're jealous if you're not in the U.S. of A. But thanks for being here, and you're beautiful people. You're the people who actually want to create a better and more enjoyable life, a more enjoyable world, a better place to be, a better place to live, and experience your fellow humans in a way that is not hate-filled and painful and hurtful. And that's why you've turned to content like this. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being a part of this. I'm also on a bunch of other platforms, whichever one you're watching on. This is how we always do it these days. For the first 15, 20 minutes of this live stream, I will be on a bunch of platforms, YouTube, Facebook, etc. But then after that, it will only be at rumble.com/Lee Camp. So the last half hour or more will only be on rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to watch over there. It's not behind a paywall. So please, if you're watching right now and you want to enjoy the full hour, go to rumble.com/Lee Camp. All right, let's get started here. And I thought I'd start with a new Oxfam study that came out this year about poverty. And I feel like this is something that a lot of you know, but sometimes you got to see the data, see the charts, see the little pie charts, and you go, oh, that piece of the pie looks not so good. Not so good, that one. So I like what Oxfam did here. They put out a big report. Let's see. I'll show you what's up here. So this is the new Oxfam report talking about how inequality kills, and it's pretty mind-blowing. The numbers are pretty mind-blowing. And as you can see, they exemplified it with these photos. You got a woman cooking some sort of lovely dish. You've got a woman who seems to be in poverty, who's struggling. You've got a guy with a megaphone who apparently just lit something on fire. And you've got some yachts here. And I feel like that clears it up. No, I'm of course making fun of those photos. But in fact, this actually is an excellent study. It says the wealth of the world's 10 richest men has doubled since the pandemic began. The incomes of I'm going to repeat this. So instead of repeating myself over and over again, which is like repeating more than once, I will skip down to the easy to read graphs that make understanding all of this so simple for everybody, because that's the thing is you want to show everyone how fucked up the world is. But it's funny that you can't really get it across nowadays unless you have little charts and little bar graphs that are a 3-year-old could understand them. So that's what they did here. Thank you, Oxfam. And here are the charts that of their recent studies on inequality. It says the wealth of the 10 richest men has doubled, while the incomes of 99% of humanity are worse off. because of COVID-19. Now, what they don't mention, of course, is COVID-19 was it's classic shock doctrine. Something bad is happening. Could be a natural disaster. Could be something man-made, like a war. But disaster is happening, a disaster, a shock to the system, and it's then used by the richest in the world, the ruling elite, to further enrich themselves. So COVID-19 comes along and they go, oh, this is a great chance for us to do a massive giveaway to the richest in the world. And they did just that. I believe the numbers are over $4.5 trillion handed to Wall Street. And as these numbers show in their easy to follow graph right here, the 10 richest men, and they are men, their wealth has doubled. Fucking doubled. And keep in mind, before that, they still had enough money that they could never spend it in their entire lifetimes. Never. It doesn't matter what they did, they could never spend it. You cannot spend $100 billion in a lifetime. It's fucking impossible. Okay. So they still, that's not enough for them, right? Because they are sociopaths. They want to get more. They want more money than just that 10 billion. So they go about enriching themselves further and further and further. And then you have a situation where during a pandemic, they have doubled their wealth. The 10 richest men doubled their wealth. The incomes of 99% of humanity are worse off. And they don't say this, but I assume it's not much different than it was a few years ago. 50% of humanity lives on $2 or less a day. A day. 50% of humanity. I'll say it again because that's mind-blowing. 50% of humanity lives on less than $2 a day. And that was a few years ago. Let's be generous and say it's doubled since then. Still, 50% of humanity living on less than $4 a day. Meanwhile, Bezos makes hundreds of dollars a second. A second. Every second of every day. But let's move on with their charts. Inequality contributes to the death of at least one person every 4 seconds. So, of those people dying around the world, which is a lot, inequality contributes to 1 out of every 4. So basically, that first chart of the wealth doubling for the richest 10 people does not have no effect on the bottom, right? It doesn't just happen that they get richer and everything else around the globe stays the same, and people that were struggling keep struggling, and people who are doing well keep doing well. No, it contributes to a cycle that kills people. And 1 out of every 4 people who dies, inequality is partially a factor. Could be they couldn't afford healthcare. Could be they were living in a very polluted area because they couldn't afford to move out of that. Could be that they were working their ass off and died partially because of their job. There's so many reasons that inequality can cause death, and that happens to 1 out of every 4 people. Inequality contributes to their death. And I feel like even that might be going a little light on that number. But moving on, 252 men have more wealth than all 1 billion women and girls in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean combined. 252 men have the same wealth as 1 billion women and girls. I mean, it's even with their little chart meant for a 2-year-old, I still have trouble fitting this shit in my brain ball. You just look at it. Even though, look, for those of you who are looking at this, you can see that they put it on a little seesaw for you. There's a little seesaw there. And still, I can't even comprehend. It's 252 people having more money than 1 billion people. And of course, they put it in terms of gender. And I think the part of the reason they did that is because globally speaking, women and girls are worse off than men. So it's speaking to that. But also they're speaking to the fact that in American society, women and girls earn less. There is a pay gap for women and girls. So that's why they were referencing that. But of course, you could do it without the gender aspect in there. You could say 252 people have the same amount of wealth as 1 billion other people. So you can do that as well. Anyway, next graph. Since 1995, the top 1% have captured nearly 20 times more of global wealth than the bottom 50% of humanity. Since 1995, the top 1% have stolen, let's be clear here, stolen, not captured, stolen 20 times more wealth than the bottom 50% of humanity. Oh, these numbers are depressing, to say the least. And then they also, and I look, some of you might be like, why do they have to make it in terms of gender? And then this next one is about race. Why do they have to make it in terms of race? Well, these are important aspects in terms of inequality. So I don't have any problem with them making some of their statistics gender-based or race-based, because it's an important aspect. We live in a systemically racist system. I know it's maybe redundant to say systemically racist system. We live in a racist system, I guess would be more appropriate. But and for those of you who deny that, it's like saying dinosaurs are still walking around. You can deny it. I mean, sorry, you can deny the dinosaurs are dead and say you see them. That doesn't make it any more real. We live in a racist system. The example I like to give, A, because I have memorized it, and B, because I think it's an easy example to show you just how racist our system is you're 50% less likely to get the first job interview, the first call for a job interview. Not just get the job, but get the first call to even come in for the job. You're 50% less likely if you just have a black-sounding name. You could fill out the form exactly the same. Maybe it has an essay on it, and you write a killer essay, whatever. They sent in equal forms, did not put down what their race was, just put some with a black-sounding name and some with a more white-sounding name, and you're 50% less likely to get that first phone call. That's how racist our system is. And they did, and in the testing for that study, they sent it to all kinds of jobs. So it wasn't like, oh, that specific job is racist. No, they sent it to all kinds of jobs, all kinds of areas, all kinds of careers, and 50% less likely. So, yeah, we live in a racist system. Deny it all you want. You're fucking wrong. 3.4 million Black Americans would be alive today if their life expectancy was the same as white people's. Before COVID-19, that alarming number was already 2 million. So yes, for those who have been following the COVID-19 numbers, they do impact Black Americans worse, the death rates. And there's multiple reasons for that. Some are fairly obvious. The health system in our country is racist because it is it harms the least among us, those who make the least among us, more. And since we live in a racist system, the poorer people in America are more often people of color. These are statistics, and therefore they are less likely to have health insurance. They're less likely to see the doctor as much. They're less likely to have the good hospitals as opposed to the not so good hospitals. A lot of reasons that our health system ends up being racist like that. It doesn't mean that the doctor is thinking, I'm not going to help Black people. That's not how a racist, that's a racist doctor. You can have a racist system without having a racist doctor. And, some of you understand this easily, and others of you perhaps have not encountered these ideas. But so we have a racist health system in this country, as well as a health system that's completely flyingly fucked. And therefore, that's one of the reasons that COVID-19 impacted Black Americans and killed more Black Americans than it did white Americans. Another reason is that the Black Americans understandably have a fear of our health system because you can, and so do many white people, but we're focusing on Black Americans for the moment. Because you go to the hospital for something that you think might be an emergency. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out your severe stomach pain was not anything crucial and you are fine the following day. And then you go home and you get a $5,000 bill. That happened to me when I was 21 years old and I didn't have insurance. And a $5,000 bill for most people, as it was for me, is like at age 21, you were like, there's no way in hell I can pay this. I couldn't pay this if you gave me 5 years to pay it. And so a lot of people refuse to go to the hospital. So they get sick and they don't go find out what it is. They don't go find out how they're doing, and they are more likely to die. And this is also why you see a difference in America versus other countries, even if you take race out of it. Uh, America, we have 1 million dead from COVID now. If you look at other countries, it's not as bad, and there's many reasons for that. But one of the reasons is in many other countries where there's healthcare, because we're the only developed country without fucking healthcare, because we're awful human beings. At least our ruling elite are. Those of you watching right now who are Americans, you're not awful people, but our ruling elite are sociopaths. And the people in other countries are far more likely, if they feel sick or feel like something's wrong, to go to a hospital and find out what it is, because they know they're not going home with a $5,000 bill. So that's another reason. All right, one more stat here from the Oxfam report on inequality. 20 of the richest billionaires are estimated, on average, to be emitting as much as 8,000 times more carbon than the billion poorest people. Okay, this is kind of a confusing number because it's got numbers within numbers. But you take 20 of the richest people, 20 of the richest billionaires. So you take the 20 richest people in the world, and you compare their carbon output, the carbon used, emitted, to the poorest 1 billion people in the world. 20 versus 1 billion. And you find that they emit 8,000 times more carbon. So we are killing the planet. There is George Carlin's famous rant on the planet will be fine, it's us and we'll be fucked. Yes, when I say we're killing the planet, I mean we're killing the planet for us. So we are creating a planet unlivable for us. Yes, the planet will be fine, but we will be fucked. We're killing the planet, and it is by far the richest people who are doing the worst harm. The billion poor people who equally die, actually they die soonest from climate catastrophe because they're far less likely to be able to leave their homes, to be able to flee, to be able to move countries, all these things, whereas the richest can flee in a second. Ted Cruz, remember, famously caught flying to Cancun for vacation while a lot of Texas, all the power had gone out because there was a freeze in spring or something that Texas had never had. So the power company wasn't prepared for the need for that much heating. And so you had people in the middle of a deep freeze, all the power goes out, and they're screwed. And people died because of this. And they're screwed, and Ted Cruz flies to Cancun. Because that's what the rich do. They fly away from the problem. And yet again, this speaks to the earlier point of this Oxfam report, which is that inequality kills. So this is another way that inequality kills with climate catastrophe. And there's a new report. I think I'm going to cover it more on an upcoming episode. New report about from the UN about how we are on a path towards an unlivable planet, towards a complete global collapse. So I plan on covering that in an upcoming episode. But all of this is to say, before I go on to the next topic, that inequality is not, I think a lot of people think of inequality and they go, oh, well, yeah, some people are poorer and they have a tougher time, and that sucks. And some people are egregiously rich, and that's not fair and not cool. Totally not cool, man. But they don't think of it in terms of death. They don't try to think of it in terms of life and death, which is what it is, okay? At the heart of it, inequality kills. It's not just inequality. It's not just, man, that guy has 3 yachts and I can't even afford a house. It's not just that. It's people dying. It's lives destroyed. It's people unable to live up to their human potential, unable to follow their passion and do what they want with their life, which you get one of, by the way. I know some people out there, they don't seem to realize that you only get one trip around the merry-go-round in this small little pale blue dot. Some people don't get that. And, as I always say, if you aren't doing what you want with your life, then don't worry. You'll get them next time. You get one chance at this. And but I also understand, I don't just, yell at people, you should be doing what you want with your life, because I understand that we live in a completely unequal, fucked up system where capitalism forces people through economic force to do shit they don't want to do. And it forces a lot of people through their entire lives to do shit they don't want to do. And so I don't chastise people for not doing what they want with their life, because we have a system that makes sure a lot of people don't do what they want with their life. That's how the system is designed, is to stop you from doing what you want with your life. And, if there's a message in the all of the stuff I'm doing, all of the work I do, all of the videos I make, it's not just that we should end the hatred, end the war, and treat each other better and care for humanity and care for the environment, but it's also, we should be able to use this life to follow our passion in one form or another. And that's not saying no need to help out your community. That's not saying in my ideal world, no one would ever, let's say, go out and help the community garden, because that's what's needed for your community. In my perfect world, you would do that stuff. But you do that stuff a little percentage of your time because you want to help your community, because you appreciate it. You appreciate your society. You appreciate the area and the community in which you live. And so you do that a small percent of your time, and then the rest of your time you use for your fucking passion, whatever it is. You get to decide what it is. Maybe it's sitting around and scratching your balls. If that's the case, then I feel bad for you that you chose that as your passion. But if that's it, it's not up to me to tell you what your passion is. That would be my ideal society. And instead, we are indoctrinated. We are socially engineered into believing that society could never exist. That's not a thing that could be out there. No. We are just have to have. The only answer is to have a capitalist society where the rich do what they want. Many of them, because the rich is not just people that work their asses off like Jeff Bezos. And by work, I mean towards villainy, at his villainous aims, works his ass off. It's not just, the rich is not just people working their asses off. There's a lot of idle rich. There is a fucking load of idle rich. There is probably, of the rich, I'd say about 10%. I mean, the very rich. I'm talking the egregiously rich. Probably 10% work hard. And I'm not saying doing good stuff. I mean, working hard, probably at awful shit. But probably 10% work hard, and probably 90% are like their kids who have giant trust funds, or their trophy husbands who sit at home cleaning the pool. Right? They're not really cleaning the pool. They end up hiring someone to clean the pool anyway. So the rich are, so what was I saying? Oh, so we are led to believe through social engineering, through indoctrination, that the only way society can work is to have a tiny number of insanely rich people enjoying themselves however they see fit. And then the rest of humanity, most of humanity, through economic force, are forced to do things that they either are okay with, but it's not their passion. Like, I don't mind my job. It's okay. That kind of thing. Or they're doing things they actively hate. Like, I fucking hate being a barista, but it's the only way I can pay the bills. That's our society. That's our world. And we're led to believe that's the only way things can function. Bullshit. There's a whole other way to imagine reality. There's a whole other way to imagine our lives. And instead, that is purged from all your airwaves. Can't be talked about, can't be mentioned. And that's how I end up being the most censored comedian in America. So you're welcome. But moving on to our next topic. Oh, by the way, I am running late on this, but I'm going to cut off the streams except for rumble.com/Lee Camp. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. I will put it in the comment section as well. It is free to go over there and watch, and I hope you will join me over there for the rest of this live stream. Also, even if you don't join me over there, I hope you will become a member at leecamp.net. It's on the screen right there. It'll redirect you to my Locals page. Locals is like Patreon, but much better. It's an experience. It's a community. You can chat with me. You can post. You can post whatever you want on the page, things like that. So it's like Patreon, but far better. So go over to leecamp.net and become a member. And also follow the feed right now to rumble.com/Lee /Lee Camp. And I will see you all over there. 1 second while I make the shift. But if you're